is that time, and it is a delight to be with you as always here on News Radio 830 KHVH. And now it is the SHOPO Hour featuring the fellas. They are in studio, and we are ready, willing, and able to take your telephone calls. Start with Brother Steve, and wishing you a very good morning.
Rick, good morning, brother. Always happy and grateful to be here with you and your listeners. You know that.
I love to see you in the morning, in the studio, nowhere else, just the studio. Brother Nick, aloha to you.
Good morning, sir. Thanks again for having us.
I can't wait for us to get started with a conversation. Brother Mike is in studio as well. Aloha.
Honored to be here, Rick, and Merry Christmas to you and your listeners.
Thank you so very much. Gosh, it is that time, right,
It
fellas?
is.
Wow. Lots on the agenda that we have to chat about, but I want to turn it over and just find out, top of mind, what might be for you in the past week since we've seen each other last. What resonates today on this December 4th? Is that correct? December 4th?
Moving quick.
What happened? Brother Steve, want to start us off?
Sure, Rick. So we had a great time at our general membership meeting over on Kauai, like we had talked about. We have that once a year where each chapter has their general membership meeting where it's a fellowship, a coming together. There's a little bit of business done if need be. And it was just great. Whenever I have the opportunity to go to Kauai and be a part of that chapter's getting togethers, I really appreciate it. Good fellowship, good connection, good participation, which was great. And we really appreciate Senate President Ron Kochi showed up and gave a few words, and we appreciate that. So just a great time had by all, and that was top of mind for me. And we're going to have Maui's general membership meeting this coming Friday, and then the Honolulu chapter is going to be the Friday after that, right, Nick?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Nick, how about you? Top of mind.
December 15th is our general membership meeting, our statewide general membership meeting for SHOPO. And one of the things that we do there is not only have an appreciation for the membership as a whole, it's a gathering, a social event for our members statewide, our members in Honolulu, and also their families. But we do business as well, like Steve said. Currently, for those of you who are members who are listening to the program, I would encourage you to go to our website or look in the mail. It is election time for certain positions within the union, so there are candidates running for office, which, depending on which election you're eligible to vote in, you can vote for people who are running for office in the union, representing your chapter. And also, we do have two proposed bylaw amendment changes to our bylaws, statewide and Honolulu chapter bylaws as well, I believe. I would encourage you to take a look at those. They're posted as well on our website. Please read them, make a decision, and vote on them.
There we go. Thank you very much for that, Nick. Brother Mike, what's top of mind with you?
Crime.
Yeah.
Rick, crime. I mean, especially during this time of the year. Crime is rampant, and I would just like to remind your listeners to, be aware of your surroundings wherever you go. I always tell my wife and my daughters, if you're coming from the store into the parking lot or parking lot to the store, stay off of your cell phone, look around, make sure you're observant as far as what's going on, because in this time of the year, people are desperate. Economy is bad, so. For me, especially down in Y19, it's just getting kind of nuts. The stabbings, the shootings, it's, parents, just make sure you keep your kids close, know where they're at and whatnot. So for me, that's what it's about, especially now for this time of the year.
Amen. Amen. I'm not a big fan of going to Ala Moana Center. I'm just not a mall guy. But we went to dinner at Komate. And it was interesting. I was just, as you mentioned, Mike, just being aware, seeing what's going on. The one thing that stood out, HPD. Consistent patrol at Ala Moana Center. And I told the kids, I'm going, that's a good thing on it, because it's also a reflection of being careful and being safe. While we were at dinner, Zoe asked me, Dad, is there a beach that we can go to a little bit later on tonight? And I said, no. for you and your friend to go to a beach at night on your own? No. Not even Alamoa? No. And I'm not being, I don't think, too hands-on, but I'm being realistic. You just don't know anymore. Magic Island, Allah's,
that's why the park closures are at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think. And that's very important. That's where a lot of our, pretty much all the districts who have beach parks and whatnot in their respective districts, they help enforce the 10 p.m. park closure law. So if you're in there just hanging out or whatnot, police officers come in, they're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
If not, then you're going to get cited or your vehicle can get towed. The only ones that's allowed in the beach parks beyond 10 p.m. are fishermen. It's open to them 24/7.
Yeah.
So, but as far as couples just want to see the moon or
hang out,
what have you, that 10 p.m. they're gonna come in and tell you to go.
I don't know, guys. I mean, really, it's to this level of anxiety about after dark. I mean, I might be an old man, but I'm highly attuned to when the lights go out. Oh boy.
Even Tantalus.
Yeah.
Tantalus is pretty scary too. But in probably in our time, we go up Tantalus, check out the scenery and whatnot. Now it's just sitting ducks for some of these predators that want to come out and do you harm, rip you off, and whatnot. So, again, just be vigilant during this time.
And Rick, one of the things that you're definitely right. Police presence at the malls is up mainly because we are responding to calls for service related to shoplifting. District 1, Urban Honolulu, where I work, Isla Moana Mall is Sector 4. And it's pumping, especially around the holiday season, like Brother Mike was saying with the retail thefts. The shopping mall is the mecca of people wanting to do sometimes bad things. You have shoplifters being detained by individual store security. So you have mall security, but then within the shops you have the loss prevention people. So whether it's Macy's, whether it's Target, whether it's whatever, people get caught, they're calling us. Then you go out of the shops, you have the parking lot. You have the cars getting broken into. So yes, this time of year, there is definitely an increase in those types of theft-related crimes, UEMV, unauthorized entry in a motor vehicle, and it keeps us busy. As far as the parks go, Rick, and obviously you're a protective dad, Ala Moana Beach Park, I think if Zoe wanted to head over there, I wouldn't say no. It's just a question of how would she get there, and then being aware and obviously not being in there too late. It's just... You hate to live in fear, and I've said that before on your show.
Right.
And Mike is right. Just be aware. If people spent less time on their phone and more time just appreciating the moment where they're at and not getting lost in cyberspace and actually being a little bit more aware, I think we'd be better off for it.
I think what I go through is a risk and reward process.
Yep.
What's the risk, but what's the reward? And for instance, with my not drinking at all a drop if I'm driving, the risk is too great. The reward is you're safe and others are safe. Okay, that makes sense. Boom. That's what I'm going to do. But to go to a beach park at night,
sure,
still tough.
Sure. And again, like Mike was saying, the beach parks close at 10 o'clock. And I think you're smart for kind of balancing it out. I would say it's more of how are you getting to the beach park? If she's walking from downtown Honolulu to Ala Moana Beach Park, I would say that's a little bit more, you're a little bit more vulnerable than if you were actually in the beach park sitting there and, what was Mike's phrase? Looking at the moon. I like
looking
that.
at the moon.
Staring at the moon. Mike comes up with some good ones, right? Yeah, the moon, looking at the moon.
That's one of his likes on his Facebook profile.
I would say it's safe to look at the moon once you're in the beach park, but if you're walking to the park, going down Bishop or something like this, I would not be staring at the moon.
No, not at all. I'm going to pick up on the malls in a moment with recent stories, but let me get primetime traffic on for our friends out on the roadways. It's the SHOPO Hour. We'll be back in a second. If you'd like to give us a call, love to hear from you. 521-8383.
KHVH.
We're back because Brother Bobby, thinking of you as we always do. Brother Nick is in today, along with Brother Steve. Brother Mike is in. Brother Mark, I don't know where he is right now. He's probably wherever an airplane flies. That could be where Mark Criccio is. But the SHOPO Hour continues. Brother Nick, want to start off. Moanalua Shopping Center had a spate of shoplifting, robberies, etc., which drove merchants to go to a cash-only policy. How profound is the issue? We talked about shoplifting and more. How profound is it? Is it an organized approach to shoplifting and robberies in malls and retailers? And your take on merchants making this announcement, changing their business model?
So organized, I think to a certain extent, yes, but then to a certain extent, no. Organized typically in crime from our lingo means that there is a larger entity of nefarious people that are going about in these extremely large groups operating on several different levels to do things. But often in these kind of situations, what you find is that you have players that essentially just know a technique or a series of technique. Perhaps that technique is being shared amongst them, and they just go about using it until they get caught or things change, right? The retailers change their approach to business, i.e. possibly going to a cash-only type of setup. There have been a few kind of higher-profile situations at that shopping mall. I think just last week, I think there were a spate of burglaries as well. People were breaking in through windows and just taking cash registers and so on. One of the techniques that we always try and push with retailers and the civilians in general is you never leave anything out in the open or where someone can steal it. All right. Obviously, if you're leaving something in your car and someone can look in and see it, they're going to try and grab it. Yeah, they're going to break in through the windows or break in through the doors and try and grab it. If you have a retail store and you have these big windows and people can see that you have a cash register that's usually accessible or an ATM machine that's right on the inside of the establishment, they're going to try and go for it. Is going cashless going to solve all your problems? Maybe yes and maybe no. Obviously, you don't want to leave cash in the register overnight. You don't want to leave something of value where somebody can see it. But do I think that it's necessarily organized like that? Mm-hmm. I don't think we're seeing the type of organized retail theft that you're seeing on the mainland, where you have these large cadres of people just running around in mass doing these kind of things. Yeah. But I do think, like I said just a moment ago, criminals are smart people, and they do have the ability, and it's often a really good ability, to be able to innately see something and go, I can take advantage of that, right? And that's probably what they're doing. And like I said, they figure out a technique, they run it to the ground, and when the establishment, the business establishment, or law enforcement comes up with a counter move, typically it takes a little bit of time, but they have a counter move as well. And that's often the way you see these things go. It goes back and forth.
So I went into Walmart too, and I try to go there once every 17 years. But I did go in, and I noticed that there were special duty officers. This is Keomoku. Special duty and uniformed security that were a major presence, which is a commentary on just how pervasive this time of year, especially. What advice, and Brother Mike and Steve, what advice would you give to retailers, for those in business, to mitigate what apparently is such an opportunistic thing?
Yeah, I mean, it is a crime of opportunity, right? I mean, depending on what business is out there that is going just cash only, I would assume it's probably those small little businesses that will go cash only. But, if you think about it, these people that go into like Walmart, 7-Elevens, Long's Drugs, or what have you, they're going in because they want to take an item. They want to take something that they need, right? Can be anywhere from, because we got beer runs from 7-Eleven all the time. They go in.
Yes, grab and go.
They just grab and go. Yeah. And for the, like say Walmart, they always check the receipts right as soon as people are leaving after they pay for their items. My thing or advice to them would be post an officer at the doors so that these people go in, they try to come out with an item that they probably stole or are attempting to steal. They would think twice if they see a uniformed officer at the front door or even a security guard. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of times you see a lot of our kupunas that are the greeters. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that, check the receipts and whatnot. But if you put Big Brother there, I think that would be a huge deterrent, especially if you put an officer that is a subsidized officer with the blue light, stick his car in the front, blue light is there. Then that in itself is a deterrent. But you need to have these officers or security visible, not just walking around. Walking around is fine because with the shoplifting laws, in order for them, the loss prevention officers to make an arrest, they have to pass the open registers. Then they have to go outside. Mm-hmm. You cannot arrest them in the store like a citizen's arrest. Because what's going to happen is if you make the arrest in the store, prosecutor's not going to take the case. They have to be going through the doors, passing by open registers where you're not attempting to pay, and then you got to catch them outside of the entrance to that particular area. But best advice, uniformed officer or even security, post them up at the entrances and exits in all of these big retail box stores. That in itself would be a huge deterrent from anybody trying to shoplift.
Brother Steve, what is the consequence for shoplifting and the different valuations of perhaps what is stolen?
Sure. So, Rick, you have different degrees of theft. And if I can circle back real quick to this cashless system, if you don't mind.
Of course.
As the brothers are talking, I'm thinking to myself, what would make a business want to switch to all cash? And I'm thinking to myself, and it ties into recommendation, maybe businesses need to make sure that their employees are making sure that the credit card that's being used to purchase an item is actually the credit card that matches the ID. Because what happens is, I wonder if these vendors are getting charged back because the owner of the card is reporting it's stolen, that it wasn't them, and then the merchandise is gone, and the merchant is not getting reimbursement from the credit card company because maybe people are claiming maybe they're claiming theft. Because ultimately, if you bring cash to the party, like Mike was saying, I'm not saying cash is bad, but you're putting a lot of cash in the register. That creates a vulnerability. Yes. And I'm thinking that maybe the reason why some of these merchants are going to a cashless system is maybe their employees were not effectively checking to make sure that the credit card being used was actually the person authorized to use it. I mean, how many times do you go into a store now? Let's take one. Do you have to show ID when you pay with a credit card? No. You just stick. So, and here's the thing. If that's a stolen credit card, that's a crime to use it, but it's usually not reported till after the fact. The business then is out the merchandise, right? Because the credit card company's not going to pay them for what was just purchased.
So I've just gone through that.
Yeah.
I went through this with my debit card.
See? So I'm wondering if that's why. And maybe there's other motives of why they want to make it cash rather than charge. The other thing, again, merchants pay a percentage to the credit card company to be able to take that transaction, whether it's 2% or 3%. So maybe this actually has nothing to do with theft and nefarious stuff. Maybe it's just that they're realizing that their business is creeping up and they don't want to pay 2 or 3% to MasterCard, and they just want to stick with cash. I don't know.
That could be a possibility. Yeah. I think it's more pragmatic. Is that they're just getting ripped off. And if they can say publicly, like we're talking about now, we got no cash. We're not going to have stuff for you to steal.
Yeah, maybe they're getting chargebacks from the credit card companies, Rick.
Yeah.
The whole entire process, Rick, when you get arrested for shoplifting, just to give you an idea of what happens, like say, for instance, a loss prevention officer sees an individual take an item from the shelf, stick it in their bag. All of these observations is what they have to put in their report. And then what happens is they follow the individual, they watch the individual pass the open cash registers, not attempting to pay. When they go outside, then they can make the citizen's arrest. And then what happens is they take them back to the office, then they call 911. They actually have to write out, the loss prevention officer has to write out a whole entire report, based on their observation, their constant visual, that they never lost sight of this person or what have you. Then they call us. We get there. HPD gets there. We peruse the report. If all the elements are there, then we make the arrest. Now, a lot of times it's based on the amount of what they stole. Mm-hmm. That can be anywhere from, $25, $100 or what have you. But the laws have changed with regards to theft first, theft second, theft third, theft fourth. Before, anything that was under $100, you can get arrested for theft fourth. That's a misdemeanor. Now, with the theft laws, it actually bumps up to $300 now. You have to steal more than $300 in order for it to be a more serious crime. Now, the other thing you got to consider is once that arrest is made, goes through the judicial process now, it is up to the prosecutor's office to decide, and the judges, to decide what they're going to do with this person. Now, a lot of times if there's, people that get arrested for theft based on, maybe they haven't been arrested before, it was a desperation kind of thing. We got people get arrested just for eating a sandwich in the store, and then when they leave, they get arrested. But would the judicial process prosecute these people if it's for an item like less than $25? And the stores have to show up now. They have to want to prosecute. So a lot of these stores, a lot of them don't want to show up and go through the process.
Is there a record? Do you have a record?
Yes.
That reflects that you've been arrested if not prosecuted?
Yes.
So if someone does a background check, for instance, you're applying for a job or what have you, they pull your background, they pull your file. If you've been arrested, that will appear. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that is at
and that'll affect your chances of even, trying to maybe even get the job.
Well, that's what I mean.
Based on that, yeah.
So I think what we're searching for is consequence.
Yes.
And understand the different 1 through 4. But if there's no prosecution, the individual has to know at least you got something you're risking. Yeah. But then again, how many criminals go, gee, I wonder if my FICO score, or I wonder if I'm going to try and do anything. If they care, it's almost catch-22.
We have some small stores that will not prosecute if whatever was stolen was less than $25.
No,
you know what I'm saying? But then if that happens, then what's gonna happen is these people, they're just gonna come back. Oh, $25. Okay, fine. Just gonna come in, take whatever, and I'm gonna leave because we know you're not gonna do anything.
Well, you should see what's happening.
Yes.
You guys know what's happening in Seattle and California.
Oh yeah.
Steve, before we take a break, thoughts?
I was just going to say, Rick, that normally when someone is detained for shoplifting and we roll up, the stores that are smart, the large retail places, and even the smaller, they usually get trespass warning. So it's not just getting arrested for theft. Normally while the person is there, then they are told by the business owner or the security representative that they're not able to come to the property for a period of 1 year. So in addition to possibly getting arrested and or cited for theft, they're going to get trespass warned where they can't come back to that property or an affiliate. For example, Ward Center. It's the entire Ward Center that they can't come back to for a year. So there's a couple things that go on, and then sometimes there's disorderly conduct, depending on, or an assault charge, depending on if the person getting detained, it was a struggle with the in-house security. So it's kind of a lot of moving parts when you have a detainment with shoplifting. It can go a couple of different ways.
And again, the stores have they have to be the ones that want to prosecute. Like they had that incident down at Walmart, Home Depot.
Hold that thought because I'm way behind on our bottom break. So let me get the news, traffic, and more. We'll continue this great conversation with the SHOPO Hour with Brother Nick, Brother Mike, and Brother Steve. Stand by, there's more.
KHVH Traffic.
Conversation that is so very timely because of the holidays upon us. And I want to thank the fellas for walking us through with specifics. Mike, you want to finish up your thought, and then I want to go to Brother Nick, and then we'll wrap up.
It just goes to show the blatancy of people that go into a big box store like Home Depot. It was I think it was maybe 2 months ago, where they went in, they grabbed a bolt cutter from one of the display racks, went to the Milwaukee power tool cage, cut it, and then they just started loading stuff on top of their wagon and walked out of the store.
Yeah.
And, and that was even before the holiday season now. So I can only imagine
what's going
to happen now. But, like I said, the biggest deterrent, put a blue light in front of your store, have a police officer at each exit, or even a security at each exit and entrance to ensure that in itself is a deterrent.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Brother Nick, final thoughts?
So, going to cash only, I mean, obviously that has its risks as well. And I think Steve kind of opened up the can a little bit on that one. We have seen establishments in the past, they're few and far between, but they are out there that only accept cash. But they do make themselves targets as well because criminals can look for that kind of thing. So when they figure out that you have a lot of cash that you've stored up through the course of the day, sometimes they'll prey on you at the end of operations and kind of maybe perform a robbery or something like that and try and get in on that money. And also, credit card fraud isn't the only form of digital fraud out there that I think retailers are dealing with. Now it seems like every cell phone out there is so smart that it can actually start paying things for you. And those get stolen as well. So we have seen people's mobile electronic devices that have personal confidential information or access to their bank accounts. They lose them, they get stolen. They're not necessarily as secure as you might think. And then somebody's using it to pay for things as well.
We have a sidebar story, and I'm just going to say porch pirates. More and more incidents, obviously, this time of year. Advice to folks to keep their things safe. If they have a delivery to literally their doorway, but they're not home, how do you protect?
So I think a good surveillance or security system, a home security system, particularly one that can update you through your mobile phone or through your work computer or something like that, where you have a live feed where you can watch it. Those are always helpful. We do get calls from people during the course of the day. I'm at work, but I'm watching this happening on my home surveillance system. Can you please send an officer down there to check? We're happy to do that. That's a deterrent, and it also helps us to catch people. And also, they're kind of pricey. They may be a little difficult to get out here because of shipping, but there are, for lack of a better term, security boxes that you can put on your porch or near your front door that allow the post office delivery people to drop your packages in it. And it's like one safe that only you have a key to, your family has a key to, prevents people from just simply walking up to your doorstep and taking things.
I think about 4 or 5 Rottweilers on your front porch would do wonders and of great assistance. Transitioning over, we unfortunately had a report that came out of Waikiki. A man was accused of pushing and injuring an elderly woman. Now, I just cite this. We started the program off talking about being aware, etc. These are reported, but are there more incidents which go unreported? And advice, again, counseling our friends out on just living of how avoidance of this type of crime. Brother Steve?
Rick, when it comes to crime, I think majority of crime is reported. Everybody has a phone. And in the case of this elderly lady or elderly individual getting pushed, it probably wasn't her that called in. It was probably somebody that saw it. Again, we always encourage the public, even if they think it might be Manini and not a big deal, if something seems off, use your gut intuition, go with it, and call us. But to answer your question directly, do I think we have crime that occurs that's not reported? I do. But I don't think it's that pervasive. I think the majority of the crime that is occurring does get reported, especially if it's robberies, assaults, anything related that the public can see. For example, that assault where she got shoved and hurt, that kind of thing.
So there was a time when it was a mindset of, I don't want to get involved. Witnesses would say, I'm not going to do that. Have we seen a transition from that to where people are more willing to be witnesses on record, to make those calls if no one else has?
I'm okay with witnesses doing that as long as they don't tell the police what their job is once they get to a scene. How's that? You want to call us and make us aware of something? I'm totally good with that. But if you call us and we come to a scene and you tell us how to do our job, that's where I kind of take exception to that. So I would say we're getting more of those, Rick. Well, why don't you do this, or why don't you do that, or why are you not doing this? Ma'am, thanks for calling. We've been doing this. Isn't our first rodeo. We'll make it all work out. So I think people mean well, but sometimes people watch too many of these police shows where they think, we have this master computer and we can just do, well, why can't you do this? And shouldn't you do that? And why can't you do this?
I got you.
It's just, yeah.
It all depends on the crime.
Yeah.
Whatever you witness to will determine if you're going to testify on behalf of what you saw. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it all depends.
It is already 7:47 in the morning. Let's go to fellas with the headphones, please. It's Monday morning. It is the SHOPO Hour, and your calls at 521-8383. Let's head over to Manny, who is in YPO today. Manny, you're on the SHOPO Hour. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm thinking you're talking to Mary.
I'm sorry, Mary.
No problem. I'm just wondering, first of all, I want to say we had a burglary in our home on Saturday night. We were gone. They came in through the park, over the fence, up to our roof on our addition, removed the louvers, and took our safe, which was in the bedroom, master bedroom closet. We called the police. Police were excellent, so I want the guys to know that. Very happy with their conduct. I'm just wondering if it seems odd to me. We have not had workers in our house. We do all our own work. All the other closet doors were closed. They didn't seem to touch anything else. They just went to that closet door. When we came home, I went to put something away in the closet. I actually had to open the closet door, turn the light on, and then saw the bare spot where the safe had been. So I'm just wondering, first of all, should I worry that they're coming back? And secondly, is that a MO, I guess I would say, for burglars to go in the house and look for something that massive? It was glued to the floor as well as bolted.
Was anything else disturbed?
No, nothing. Not a thing. Just
on basing what you're saying, Mary, and this is Michael. I wanted to introduce myself to you, and thank you for calling in. But as police officers, if there is a situation like yours where they just targeted this one area, it's got to be inside.
Somebody knew. Yeah,
like you said, you haven't had any workers there or what have you. But normally, for them to go through the park, go over the wall, go through your house, somebody knew that it was there. It's not like you display it or you advertise where the safe is. But if that's the only thing that was disturbed, then you have to assume that somebody knew that safe was there. And trust me, our detectives that is actually going to be taking those cases, your case, they're going to do the best they can to try and find out who did this.
Steve, Nick, before we say aloha.
No, I think it's 100% right, Mary, not to scare you, but just think about it. There's certain specific tools that you need to remove a safe. There's things that need to be brought to make that a successful theft. And to Mike's point, I don't see how you just randomly pick your place, randomly pick the right tools, and any of that is random. I think they knew what they were looking for and they knew what they needed.
Would you recommend changing of locks or any type of enhancing home security in this case, Nick? Steve?
Sorry, I was just going to say, did she have any repair guys in there in the last couple of months? Did she have any calls for service? Again, not that we want to blame anybody, but what technicians were allowed in her property? And if the answer to all that is no, then you maybe need to start looking, I hate to say it, at your friends and family.
Yeah. Mary?
Okay. Yeah, I will take all of that in note. What we did already was put bars on the windows upstairs. If you walked the line of the property we're along the park in Crestview. And so if you walk the line, most of the people have ACs in the windows and Some have the other window barred, but some don't. Ours were open, no bars, and, easy to get to, I guess.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Mary, you know what? It sucks that I have to say this, but they may be back, and you have to be more vigilant to hopefully make it a lot harder for them. Like if they see the bars on the windows, they're not gonna make any attempts to come inside. But like Steve said, and unfortunately, it may go deeper with regards to who may have knew that safe was there.
Mary, thank you so very much. We wish you the very best. We're at 7:52, right at the top of the hour. Short break. When we come back, Jerry, hold on, if you wouldn't mind. We'll come right to you after this. 7:52.
KHVH.
Unfortunately, time is flying by. We're at 7:54. Make it 7:55. Want to share time with Jerry out in Palolo. Jerry, I thank you for your patience, Jerry, and welcome to the SHOPO Hour. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Rick.
Morning.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Question. Last week I heard a kind of a convoluted answer to homeless encampments on the street, whether they were legal or not legal. So much gray area. I was just wondering about on Summer Street in front of Ross and PetSmart. There's not too much gray area when you got pallets stacked up as a single-story dwelling all the way down the street. I just wonder how that's not addressed.
Well, that's right around the corner from us here, and I took a path down the street across from Salvation Army and Ross, where you described. Man, it's a full-on encampment. What is, from HPD standpoint, your officers, the legal ability to remove, etc.?
So you're talking about the area around IHS Sumner, which is in Iwilei,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken. A big problem, absolutely. We'll all acknowledge that. It has been for a very long time. The entire time I worked in Kalihi, 10 years and a month. That was a huge problem down there. Resources the department has to be able to address it are admittedly limited. All right, patrol officers have to respond to 911 calls, do other sorts of patrols throughout the course of the day, don't necessarily have the capability to go out there and clean it up all the time. CPT Weed and Seed details that are attached to the division as well. Got a lot of other things to do. They try as hard as they can, but it's a problem that it never goes away. Can you cite people for obstructing the sidewalk? Absolutely. Can you cite people for erecting makeshift tents or makeshift dwellings in a public area like that? Yeah, you can. Do you have problems with organizations like the ACLU and activist organizations out there fighting for the quote-unquote rights of these homeless people? Yeah, you do. Is it easy to take away a makeshift encampment or people's property? No, it's not. It has to be a gigantic coordinated effort. I've been on these types of sweeps before where you can't just roll through there with a garbage can and start throwing things into it as a representative of the county and of the police department and throw that stuff away and not expect to get, some type of repercussion or some type of lawsuit against you. I wish I had a better answer for you. Convoluted is the word. Out of control is probably the correct way of putting it.
So, Jerry, what you can do is one of the things that we recommend to people that have concerns like yours, especially with regards to residentially challenged people, is you can go to that particular district in that area, which is, in that case, the Kalihi Police Station, and you can talk to the community police sergeant and try and see what they can do, because they have these scheduled what is called SPOs, which is called Standard Property Ordinances, and that is worked out with the city, Parks and Rec. And what happens is they target a specific area. They let these residentially challenged people know that this is going to be coming. So notices are sent out to these people so that to inform them that we're going to be cleaning up this area. So what the Standard Property Ordinance is, they hold on to their property for 45 days. So that, in a nutshell, is what I think the best thing you can do is contact the CPT sergeant at that particular district.
30 seconds. Sorry.
We've heard in this community that homelessness is not a crime. Is that correct? If homelessness is not a crime, then how is this a police issue? I don't mean to be insensitive, but if you see someone sleeping on a tent on the sidewalk and is built to makeshift structure, the first thing the community shouldn't think of is it's the police's issue. It's really not. It can become our issue, but ultimately it's obviously a breakdown and an opportunity for us to do better at finding shelter and resources for those on the street. I'm going to be very blunt here. This community has taken a position with the ACLU, like Nick said. We have to leave people where they're at if we can't bring them in. So homelessness isn't a crime. Don't look at HPD to fix that problem.
On that note, Brother Nick, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Brother Mike, aloha to you.
Thanks, Rick. Merry Christmas, man.
Brother Steve.
I love you, Rick. Thanks for the opportunity, as always, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for setting up our next conversation. And we'll be back in a moment. Jillian Anderson will be next.